is the day. We will know a whole lot by the time the dust settles.
Welcome back to Happy Valley.
Everything matters. That's where we win right here. Not on the field.
Where we want to be at the end of the season starts with our mentality and our attention to detail today.
PSECU, the official sponsor of Penn State football's weekly game preview. Welcome in Penn State and Iowa this weekend at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 Central on Fox. I'm your host, Mitch Gerben. Coming up on today's weekly preview show, we'll hear from head coach James Franklin as he addresses the local media. We'll also chat with the voice of the Nittany Lions as he slides right in here, Steve Jones. And then, of course, we will preview Penn State and Iowa. We'll also visit with redshirt sophomore cornerback Daequan Hardy, number 25, who's had a couple of outstanding games for Penn State. Steve, as we await head coach James Franklin to address the media just behind us, how much are you looking forward to this one?
Well, I think it has all the ingredients to be a great football game, and I think that makes it a lot of fun. You know, the stakes always make it more fun. But you know what? The bottom line is I think the mentality that has been put forward in the culture by James Franklin of a 1-0 makes every week a big week. You can't get to where you want to go unless you beat Villanova, unless you beat Indiana, unless you beat Auburn, unless you beat Ball State, unless you beat Wisconsin. Because they've taken care of all their 1-0s to this point, now they get to this one, which would be a great 1-0 to get.
Very well said. Number 3 versus number 4 this Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox. Or as always, you can listen to Steve, Jack Ham, and company on the Penn State Sports Network. Now, I believe we are close to having James Franklin meet with the local media to get a live look on the right-hand side of your screen of where he will ultimately talk to those individuals on a Wednesday evening here in State College. Unseasonably warm today around here. It's like 70, 75
unseasonably
degrees.
Warm. Wait till Saturday.
It's supposed to be about 85 degrees, correct?
83 degrees for a high. And remember, when we're talking about like, oh, it's a 4 o'clock game, it'll transition into the night. No, it's 3 o'clock in Iowa. It won't get dark until we're in the post-game show.
It will be nice and hot, to say the least. 69,000 plus will be in attendance for that one in Iowa City, as we'll preview that one coming up here momentarily. We'll also visit with Daequan Hardy, the cornerback for Penn State. And then we will we'll take a look at both the offense and the defensive side of the football for Iowa as well as Penn State.
What a year he's had, Hardy, because, look, we're in an era of sub packages. This era's gone on for a while, and it's going to keep going that way. So the player that you select to be that slot corner is so important. His athleticism, look how he closes on this ball and knocks it away. Fabulous play in this game. We just knocked it away. That's how he's been playing. He's not only been playing because he is fast, he's playing fast. He's seeing plays develop. He's getting himself in the way in a passing lane like this and knocking it away. He's giving coverage and not creating penalties.
Head coach James Franklin is awaiting with the media. Let's toss it down to Coach.
Look at all of it. We probably want to move farther away from these guys in the future. We look at all of it. We go back and watch, obviously, our games, especially because there hasn't been turnover on the staff. Their staff, but they're also looking at us differently. Because we've had some changes. But, yeah, we look at it all. We go back and obviously look at the games from this year, look at the late games from last season, bowl game, and then obviously, our previous games. Usually on special teams, you have a lot less kind of reps to evaluate. So that's where you really will dig back a couple of years, especially if it's been the same coordinator.
James, Kalen King burned his red shirt on Saturday. You set a high bar for him back in the spring. What has he done since that point to kind of continue validating the early success that he had?
Yeah, he's still a true freshman that's getting better, and he makes plays, and he's extremely competitive. But there's still things that he needs to learn. To have a chance to get significant playing time and kind of make the move there, just in terms of the level of consistency. That's really what it's about. It's who do the coaches and their peers feel like has earned the right to consistently be out there based on their actions. And Kalen's done some really good things as a young player through spring ball and through training camp and even for this season. But he just needs to needs to do it on a more consistent basis. And then I think the other thing that we're trying to get through to a lot of these young guys is special teams. You guys have heard me tell the story 1,000 times, but Grant Haley, as a young player, gained a lot of his confidence through special teams as his defensive reps grew. And that's what I'd like to see for Kalen. Kalen should be starting on 3 units on special teams right now, but he's not. And that's something I think that he can work on.
James, Iowa's offense doesn't score a whole bunch, or they score a whole bunch, but they don't move the ball very much. Are you putting in an extra emphasis on field position this game?
Well, yeah, but that's because of the turnovers that they get. So they're in a great situation because they're doing what they can do with the opportunities they get. They get the ball in short fields, and they've been able to turn them into touchdowns. So that's a positive for them. It's hard for me to kind of talk about more than that because they have done what they've needed to do with the situation that they've been in.
James, along those lines, we see you guys working on ball security every time we're at practice. Is that amped up at all this week, facing an opponent that's forced so many turnovers, or is there more of a getting the message across?
No, we literally, and I've never, any other place I've ever been, except obviously at Vanderbilt and here, we do a specific ball security drill every single day, always have. There's always times where the coordinators will come to me and say, hey, during that period today, I'd like to do this or do that. That's a non-negotiable. There's a lot of things that we'll discuss and modify. That's not one of them. So we continue to emphasize it. But no, it's not different this week. I have talked about it in the meeting, that's been a huge part of their success this season and a big reason why they are where they are. So we've talked about that, but nothing in practice has really been different.
Is it going to be weird going back out on the road again, first time in a while? Just in pumping in the crowd noise as well, just that environment on Saturday?
No, it's been how many weeks? 2-3 weeks?
Been home for 4.
Huh?
Been home for 4.
Oh, well, I guess it has been long. Yeah. I don't know. No, not really.
James, if I could go back, I don't want to assume anything, but it doesn't seem like you're trending towards burning a lot of red shirts with this freshman class. Does it feel a little bit different than freshman classes in years past in terms of that volume, and how does that maybe impact personnel plans moving forward when that many guys preserve a year of eligibility?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's interesting. Sometimes you guys will ask questions and it triggers kind of a thought for me. I want to go back and look at that this year compared to previous years. I'm not sure on that. I think a little bit too is the way our schedule played out. We typically would have different out of conference games to open the season. We got one of the most challenging schedules in college football. So that may factor into it, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't necessarily say that this freshman class feels different than others. I think a lot of it is the schedule, but it triggers a thought that I want to go back and kind of study this class compared to the last few.
The triggers for you go into a game with a plan for how you want to attack a defense or an offense, and it doesn't work, or it does work, but then you're down by 14 and running the ball doesn't make sense anymore because there's 5 minutes left. What are the triggers for we're changing our approach to what we're doing in the middle of a game, and how do you get a team ready for those moments?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. In terms of getting the team ready for it, besides 4-minute and 2-minute when it distinctly changes, I don't know if we necessarily do that, and I don't even know if we necessarily want them to know that. We would just manage that from the sideline and how we call the games or when we get the plays in or the type of tempos that we use. So 4-minute and 2-minute specifically, we're doing that. Besides that, we're trying to manage it as coaches. Obviously, being on the road has elements. But yeah, I think that's something that we'll try to more manage. I don't really want the players kind of understanding some of those things. I just want them to go out and compete.
James, we've seen Mike Yursich, step out there and play quarterback a few times in practice. How does his hands-on approach kind of work with this offense? The way he's
I'm not following what you mean about playing quarterback. I haven't.
cornerback.
Oh, cornerback. Yeah, no. There's sometimes he'll jump in, say, and that's not very different than in years past. But say we're running a certain play and the scout team guy didn't do it exactly like what Iowa's going to do on Saturday. Rather than take the time to explain it, he'll pull him out and jump in and give the look, or Taylor, or whoever it may be. But yeah, he's been hands-on. But I would say we've been in that situation really since I've been here.
James, that surprised or maybe impressed you most with Mike in this offense?
Yeah, I wouldn't, not to kind of give you a short answer, but I wouldn't necessarily say anything's really surprised me.
What's impressed
you? He's a creative guy and loves plays. I know that sounds somewhat ridiculous as an offensive coordinator, but he loves plays. So I think his creativity and his ability to complement and set up one play to the next week, I think has been really good, really good. His intensity, I think, has been really good for us. I think we're going to continue to get better each week, and part of it is really the staff getting used to Mike and Mike getting used to the staff and the type of communication that happens from the booth down to him and then from the sideline as well. But so far, obviously, so good. But I still think there's a lot of room left for growth, and I think Mike would feel the same way.
Speaking of that, there's always the adage of take what the defense gives you, but they're giving it to you for a reason. How do you, as the head coach, kind of teach that or give that to your offensive coordinator and your quarterback, of knowing when to be aggressive?
Yeah, and I think you guys have heard me say this in years past, where that's where I think my past of being a play caller, so having a kind of understanding of that and being able to be on the sideline and watch the flow of the game. And sometimes you're so close to something, so hearing a different perspective is good sometimes. It's kind of reminding, hey, we need to push the ball down the field, or they haven't stopped the run yet. Let's get back to the run, or things like that. And I've always done that with the coordinators, is reminding them. Or you had some plays that you were successful with in the first quarter, the first half, and we haven't gone back to it. Things like that. So that's what I try to do as much as I possibly can with Brent, with Mike, with Joe as well. But he's been great. He's been great. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
James, you have a couple of former assistants who are facing each other this weekend in Huff and Ricky.
Yep.
Do you keep tabs on those guys and watch their progress? And how much pride do you take in seeing former?
Yeah. It's been really cool to see guys leave here and become head coaches or go to the NFL or whatever it may be. I mean, that's part of my responsibility as well, too, right? It's to help the players reach their dreams. It's also to put, a product on the field that our fans and alumni and lettermen can be proud of. But it's also to help these guys' careers and whatever they may want to do. So to see those two guys playing each other this week is cool. I went into Jevin's office to kind of look at the weekly highlight, and he was watching Ricky's press conference, and it kind of rewinded and showed me a couple things that Ricky had said. So it's cool. I think this is the first. Two former staff members going against each other and having success. It's also interesting with the staff, they're opening press conferences and the staff will bring up things that kind of showed up in the press conference. I'm happy for both of those guys. Those guys are both really good football coaches. Those guys are both really good recruiters, and they're really good men. And, it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Obviously, it's weird because it's for both of them, if I'm correct here, it's both of them their first year coaching games, but Ricky's second year being a head coach. I know that sounds strange, but I think that's the reality of it.
James, we're going to get Jair Brown here in just a moment. How has he answered the bell since you guys named him the starter, and what has he done to impact the defense these last 5 games?
Yeah, Tig's been phenomenal. And I think his improvement, like a lot of junior college players, from year 1 to year 2, I think has been dramatic. But more than that, I'm a big Tig fan. He's very appreciative coming from Trenton, New Jersey, and from Lackawanna Junior College. He's very appreciative of his opportunities and experience here at Penn State. He's always got a huge smile on his face. He's one of those guys that I think does a really good job of being a great teammate, but also understanding how to be with the coaches and is coachable, but also can have fun, with the coaches as well. I know him and Coach Poindexter have a great relationship. I'm really proud of him. I spoke with Coach Duda today and just told him how great Tig is doing. I'm really happy. Not surprised at the success that he's having this year. I think we got two of the better safeties in college football.
One more. How does having a consistent effort on punt change what you do, if at all? Like, how does it give you confidence when Jordan's back there doing what he does so consistently?
Yeah, that's where the discussion sometimes comes is we're doing such a good job of sky punts and things like that where, should we go for it on 4th down in plus territory, or should we pin them deep? The analytics people will tell you should go for it on every single 4th down, but I do think it has to factor in, which I don't know if they do, how good is your punter at pinning people deep and how good are your bullets at playing the ball in the air. So I think that helps. Hopefully we're not in a situation where we have to swing field position, but he's shown he's been able to do that. And some punters will do it, but they don't do it with hang time, and it becomes a negative. You actually out-kick your coverage. And he's been able to kick it for tremendous distance and swing field position, but also do it in a way where we have a chance to cover it with field position as well as hang time. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
That's head coach James Franklin addressing the local media here in State College on Wednesday evening as we now welcome in cornerback Daequan Hardy. And Daequan, coach just wrapped up his press conference talking a little bit about the defense, specifically Jair Brown. But for you, where do you feel you've taken the biggest stride through 5 games?
The biggest strides through 5 games, I would say just my overall knowledge of the game. I've been taking strides and just understanding the defense. Coach Pratt does a good job of teaching all the guys the defense, and overall, I just my knowledge has been great. So yeah.
And part of that is you're playing that slot corner spot. Okay, in the world of sub packages, that's obviously critical. You got to play a lot in space. How much film study does it take during the course of the week to figure out how you want to play somebody?
It takes a lot of film study. I like to break down the film by formations like 3x1 and 2x2, and then I go from there depending on the routes and the combination of routes they run to determine my leverage. So I do that throughout the week as preparing for the game. So yeah.
How has your film study improved over the course of this year?
It has improved a lot. I get a lot of my techniques from a veteran alumni, John Reed. He helped me out a lot, just giving me the format, how to study film. Also, Tariq does a good job of helping me as well. So.
Okay, it's been brought up a couple of times about your state championship game. So let's have a little fun about that for a moment, because every time you look, I remember when you were on scout team, somebody asked me a couple of years ago, which guy on scout team? I said, Hardy's around the ball all the time. So this goes back to your state championship game. What was that like for you, where it seemed like every time you touched it, something incredible happened?
In the moment, I was just playing football. I didn't really think about all the plays I was doing and all the plays I was making until probably my last touchdown. I had caught a go ball for 37 yards, and then all the players on the team kept coming do you realize you got 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions? I didn't really think about it all like that until after the game I got in the locker room and stuff. But it was fun. It was a great experience.
If you took time to think about it, you'd be there for 3 hours.
That's a good little nugget there. All right, let's go back to the past couple of games, starting with Villanova, and take a look at a couple of your highlights from some PBUs. Daequan Hardy's had 2 PBUs the last 2 consecutive games now, but take us through this highlight.
I knew during the switch he was probably going to sit it down because it was 3rd down situation. So I just tried to drive in their hip and make a play on the ball. Almost came away with an interception, but
just missed the INT on that one. Then here we are with Indiana, the 3rd quarter, 1:40 left, and this was right before that blocked field goal kick. Heck of a job by you on the coverage.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking, the formation said they like to isolate the slot. One of their plays was that fade route in the slot, so I kind of knew it was coming. Try to connect to the receiver and just play the ball, which I did.
Daequan, what has the weight room meant to more physical play on your part over time?
It's been a lot. Alvin does a great job of getting me and the other DB stronger. I came in around like 150 pounds. Right now I'm around like 180, so it's definitely been a lot in the physical aspect.
Got the film room with John Reed, some tidbits from the legend.
Yeah.
Then you got the weight room, stacking up to be a pretty good career so far here at Penn State. Daequan, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Continues to be a special player. There's no question about that. No, he is
Daequan Hardy joining us on the PSECU Weekly
You know
Game
what he
Preview.
is? He is a great athlete who's also a great football player. See, and that's a great combination to have. Some people are great athletes, and okay, the football part they can do. It's when you get a guy with some instincts. You see how he's breaking on balls, like in those games there. That's instinct. I see it, I believe it, and I go for it. To go with his athleticism, now you know you have a special player when somebody has that combination of the two.
Well, for those that are around the program, that John Reed name really sticks out as one of the all-time film studiers from just being around the program. But that's a guy that you should absolutely take advantage of to learn from.
No question, especially when it comes. John Reed would always organize film sessions. When he was a freshman, he organized film sessions. And then, by the way, if your computer broke down, he could fix that too. I mean, he could do that. I remember talking to one of the scouts. I won't mention which one. But all he kept doing was raving to me about Reed over and over again, pre-draft. So,
very well said. All right, let's dive into this matchup. Penn State and Iowa, 4 o'clock kick this Saturday in Kinnick Stadium with just over 69,000 fans in attendance. Steve, let's start on the offensive side of football for Iowa. What stands out?
All right, so Tyler Goodson's a really good running back. I mean, he's quick, he can be elusive, but the other part is that you watch him in the pass game. Not only did he have the 67-yard catch for a touchdown against Maryland, but he ran a play in the first quarter where he ran a legitimate route out of the backfield. Boom, jab, step to the sideline, cut it over the middle. That's tough for people to cover. He's a big-time player. Petrus has been much, much better. The complaint about him last year was that early on is that he turned the ball over too often. Well, he has only one interception the entire season, and this includes a game on the road, going to Ames and beating Iowa State like he did here, and dropping a ball in like that, which was a heck of a throw. Reganey's a good receiver. Laporta, the tight end, is the guy that is, he's got 22 catches already this year. Good player. And look, he delivers the ball on a line, and you can just see he leads his players into yards after the catch, and that's Laporta right there, the tight end that was actually Reganey making that play right there. And Nico's a good player. Makes a big difference. Arlen Bruce is a freshman who's come on the last couple of games. Kaylee Johnson's another freshman. Tyrone Tracy, number 3, is another guy you have to take a look at in that offense as well.
Little offensive analysis report from Steve Jones on the Iowa offense. Now let's flip to the defensive side of the football. And I think the stat that clearly jumps out to everybody last game was 7 forced turnovers at Maryland.
And by the way, Tyler Lindenbaum, the center, is one of the best in the country. He's a first-round pick for Iowa. Now, defensively, we all know about the takeaways. They've got 16 of them so far this year. That's Seth Benson right there getting one. Now, here's another one. Deflected at the line of scrimmage. There's another pick. Riley Moss, by the way, has had a big year with 3 of them. Now, and he's got 2 of them brought back for touchdowns against Indiana right there where he jumps, and there he goes. He got a second one in this game as well, and then his third one came against Maryland last week. It's interesting when you look at what they've done defensively. I'll tell you, Dane Belton, number 4, is a big-time player too. You look at how he plays. But when you look at Iowa, they've had clusters of turnovers this year. 3 games have accounted for 14 of the 16 takeaways. All right, and this is Matt Hank. I think this is Matt. Yeah, it is Matt Hankins picking this one off right here. 14 of the 16 have been in 3 games. The other 2 games, believe it or not, Kent State and Colorado State, they only have 1 each in those games. So you take care of the ball, and there's Jack Campbell scoring a touchdown there. But against Maryland, their average drive start is the 46-yard line. They started 6 drives in Maryland territory. They have started 18 drives in 5 games on the plus side of the field. The offense has had great short fields to work with all year, courtesy of the defense.
All right, so with that said, then, how important will Jordan Stout in that punt game be? Saturday?
you want to give these guys a long field. They have 5 drives the entire season to 70 yards or better. Right? Now, through 5 games, that's not a large amount. That's because they've had so many drives start on the other side of the field. But you want to give them a long field to work with. And you want to let your defense have the opportunity to work some of its magic out there too. We've talked a lot about the Iowa defense. That's not the only great defense out there on Saturday.
When it comes to Penn State's defense, who's your X factor in this matchup?
Oh, the X factor in this fact, besides all 11 guys? Let's see. I mean, look, I think you look at the safety play as to what Penn State's had. We talked about Tig Brown and we talked about Daequan Brisker. That's a great combination. Now you go out to the corners with Porter and Tariq Castro-Fields. That means a lot. And then can you get pressure on Petrus so he does things quicker than he wants to? Doesn't mean you have to blitz him, but a guy like Arnold Ebiketie or Jesse Luketa could be very important. And the matchup of Linderbaum, who's outstanding at the center, and P.J. Mustipher, right? If you want to watch good line play, that may be a fun one to watch.
Well, it'll take place this Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock local on Fox. Steve, appreciate your time, and as I'm sure we'll see you for the Unrivaled pregame show this Saturday, which will get underway at about 12:30 Central Time, 1:30 Eastern Time, so join us for that. And then after the game, be sure to join us for the Unrivaled postgame show as well, as we'll have head coach James Franklin and then a couple of Penn State student athletes.
I mean, it's a road game, and I was all set to talk about the clear bag policy.
I know. How disappointing this week. No clear bag policy, no download your mobile tickets ahead of time, all that stuff. But, hey, if you are coming to the game, make sure that you have all that stuff squared away on the road.
Yeah.
And be sure to wear white. That's going to do it for this edition of the PSECU Weekly Game Preview. We'll see you Saturday from Kinnick Stadium.
This is the day. We will know a whole lot by the time the dust settles.
Welcome back to Happy Valley.
Everything matters. That's where we win right here. Not on the field.
But where we want to be at the end of the season starts with our mentality and our attention to detail today.